inside Burrishoole Friary. We're standing in the chapel, in the chancel. So if you look straight down to the doorway, the whole area originally would have been one long, continuous rectangle. There would have been possibly a rood screen here, just where you see the graveyard, just about there. So this area would have been for the exclusive use of the monks. So lay people would have come in that doorway there, the Gothic style doorway down there, into the nave. So you have the nave, the whole nave, and the chancel. So the chancel is at the eastern end of the church. Now, behind you, you'll see a very elaborate window, which is called a tracery window. And when you go outside, and you look up at the apex of the window, you see a head, a stone head. Now these are found commonly in quite a number of the friaries. I think there's some at Murrick as well. People who have done research on these heads maintain that they represent fairly well-off people, as they're wearing a very elaborate headdress. But they're quite interesting because some of the friaries in North Mayo have actually monks' heads, spiritual monks' heads. So maybe they denote monks that had lived at these friaries, or maybe they represent something entirely different. So we have the nave, and we have the chancel, and the altar behind you under the east window. You have a piscina, that's holy water front. You have a nombre there beneath the wall, which is where the sacred vessels would have been deposited during the Mass here at Burrishoole. You have a number of windows. This type of window here, which we use to date architecture in houses like this, is classic 15th century window. It has an O-G-E-E, an OG head. You can see it's pointed in the Gothic style. So this friary here is constructed in the Gothic style. It is quite late, 1469, late medieval period. There are also a number of twin lights, OG-headed windows, in I think it's the Lady Chapel, anyway, we'll find them. Now, in here, you have seating for two people, probably members of the De Burgos or the O'Malleys or the Butlers, whoever. And they would have, there's a twin OG-headed window there, twin light. So, to look at the architecture of the Abbey and the phases, the 15th century phases, the nave and the chancel are original, 15th century. Later in the 15th century, the Lady Chapel, which is here on our right, was constructed. And later again, this tower. Now, researchers who have looked at Burrishoole say that the tower here is different to what you would expect at a Dominican friary, in that it's squat and it's more like the Cistercian type of friary rather than the Franciscans or the Dominicans, in that usually they're more slender. And behind you there is where the bell rope would have been to ring the bell for the various services. The doorway here leads into the Lady Chapel or the South Chapel here. So we're going to have a look in here. I'm going to mind you heads. again, it's very classic 15th century. You have the tracery window, again in the Gothic style. You have the tomb. Usually the very important people would be buried within the precincts of the friary. You have a double ogee-headed window there on that side. Incidentally, the black felt, that indicates that the Department of the Environment have carried out repairs even. And it indicates people looking at the architecture would know what was original and what was inserted at a later period. Now, this is where the halls maintained that, well, in fact, there are photographs to prove it, where this was completely filled with skulls, the skulls of the monks. And somebody said that possibly one skull belonged to Grace O'Malley, but that's folklore. We don't know where she's buried, so it's possible. And the halls again talked about how the local people would come here and take the skulls, take them away for cures for various ailments.
To buy milk and drink them out of the skull.
Right, yeah.
And to cure.
Yeah, the leaf is a great thing. Again, here you have the skeena, or the holy water font, and the normbry for the sacred vessels. And that would have been inserted because it completely obscures the window behind it. So you can know that it's a later addition. And in fact, the whole thing has been reconstructed. If you look, you can see the brick archway there, and then another archway inserted underneath it. But it hasn't got the black felt, so it wasn't done by the Department of the Environment or National Monuments. So it may have been done sometime in the later, possibly 16th century.
This is 1623.
One?
1623.
Yeah.
What date is it?
Two. Oh, it's two, yeah. Two, yeah, okay. So, can you read the inscription on it?
No.
No?
I think it's David O'Kelly, isn't it?
It's Anno Domini.
And his wife, Arabella Barrett.
So I said everybody wanted to be buried within the precincts of the friary and the churches like Clonmacnoise. There was actually a war between the monks of Durrow and Clonmacnoise about burial within the precincts of the churches at Clonmacnoise, because people felt believed that they would go straight up to heaven if they were called such a burial. So we move on. These are parts and fragments of the 15th century. You can see the overhead window there in limestone. Yeah. Now, these are not associated with the running of the friary. They're actually gun loops erected by Malby when he was here in the 16th century. And there are also lots of them in the remains of the domestic quarters. So these gun loops, actually, if you see them you can see them at Rockfleet and a lot of the tower houses. They were located so that they would have absolutely perfect aim at the person attacking the castle. Now, some of them, for earlier times, are quite narrow, and you see a loop underneath, which means that when they were using bows and arrows, they could shoot out, but they could also shoot down. So the Normans, of course, were great military men. Now here is a plan of Burrishoole, and one of the most famous people to be buried here was, of course, Father Manus Sweeney. There's debate about whether or not Manus Sweeney was born in Ducanella or in Burrishoole. But anyway, the folklore states that he was buried, or he was born in Ducanella, And on the night he was born, there was a huge storm. And it was the custom at the time that people calling at any house throughout Ireland would be offered the hospitality of the house. And there was a knock on the door, and a travelling man asked to be admitted, which he was. The Manaswini's mother was in labour, and the man sat down and had tea or whatever, etc. And he prophesied to the husband that the child that was born that night would be hanged, which was a terrible thing to hear about a newborn infant. So his parents did everything they could to try and prevent this awful happening. But they may have moved to Burrishoole, who knows? Anyway, it was during the penal times, and Manaswini was sent abroad to be educated. And he came back being proficient in the French language. And during the 1798 rebellion, he was in Newport, and seemingly on the Newport Castlebar Road, he was observed talking to a French officer. And it was reported to Sir Neil O'Donnell, who owned the Burrishoole estate at that time. And he was arrested as a collaborator. He was imprisoned in Newport. He escaped, and he spent some time on Slievemore on Achill, supposedly in a cave, and various other locations. But he was recaptured, and he was hanged in Newport by Sir Richard O'Donnell. So that's a very sad date, and he's buried here in Burrishoole. And that's his tomb.
Who's supposed to be captured in the
Sorry?
Who's supposed to be captured in the
Yes, yeah. So now if we can walk out the west doorway. Sorry.
What a view, huh? I've never seen this. I've been here for 40 years.
No?
I've never seen it. Who owns that house?
It's turning into one today. Yeah. Now there's it's the most splendid view.
Well, this is actually brings to life Malby's description of Burrishoole, an abbey standing very pleasantly by a river, where ships of 500 tons may lie at anchor. So, beautiful vista here. On our left is the convent where Sister Honoria de Burgo may have resided or sought shelter during the Desmond Rebellion, and possibly not here at Burrishoole Abbey. Now we're going to walk into the remains of the domestic area.
Everywhere. Every breath you take. Beautiful here, isn't it?
Oh,
Beautiful, magnificent.
oh, those ones. Anyway, you can get a very good view here of the tower the central tower in the nave. You can see the 15th century pointed arched windows, the Gothic style, the twin light over there, and the doorway. This is mainly where Malby would have garrisoned his troops, and it was subsequently attacked by Cromwell, so a lot of destruction has been carried out in this area here. You can see the gun loops in the wall all along there at the bottom. And this would have been where the dormitories would have been overhead here, where the monks would have slept. You'd have had a refectory, and it was the custom that when the monks were having their evening meal, or all their meals, that you have a raised area dais where one of the monks, chapter monks, would sit and he would read to the monks as they were eating their meals. You'd have had probably a small scriptoria where the choir monks would have read and researched and illuminated possibly some of the manuscripts. The only remains of the cloister arcade is here on the east, but it would give you an idea of the size, the original size of the friary here, which, as I said, has been described as a mini friary. It is much smaller than Boyle and some of the friaries like Rathfran in North Mayo, but still it's a fairly substantial size. And it survived, as I said, after the dissolution of the monasteries. It was re-established in 1606 and continued here until, I think, around about the 18th century, with a few monks residing within the walls. Lots of burials here. As I said again, it was most of the local people would have wanted to be buried within the town of Burrishoole. What happened to the town of Burrishoole? Well, a colonial official by the name of Pratt, after which Newport Pratt is called, he acquired the lease of the Burrishoole estate from the Medlicots family, who were to have been here from the late 17th century, early 18th century. And he decided that it would be more advantageous for the town of Newport to be closer to the sea, the inlet of the sea at Newport. So the town was moved and is known today as Newport Pratt. And the town of Burrishoole, cluster of dwellings, have all disappeared. Nobody's really done a lot of research to where the town might be located, but it is possible that the foundations will have survived and would probably be available with geophysical survey or something like that, LiDAR, which are advanced technologies today, which can locate towns like this. As the castle of Henry Butler's castle is over on the hill there, so it's probably in this area. I don't think there's anything else.
How long was it
I can say.
How long was it garrisoned by Malby? Sort of 1580 till when?
It was around about 1580. He was here for quite a while.
If there were loopholes, they must have been here for quite a while.
Probably months. We know that he was in
And then
Gaul.
the Cromwellians came here and they garrisoned.
Sorry?
The Cromwellians came here.
The Cromwellians came here afterwards. Yeah,
they garrisoned this as well. That's probably.
Well, they did the same in Boyle, but they did a lot more destruction in Boyle than they did here. Huge amount of destruction in Boyle. Totally altered it as well, but the cloister.
I think there was a garrison as late as 1680.
Yeah.
He had been crossing the Rennings of the old castle.
You know, Malby met Grace O'Malley in Galway and described her when she was with her second husband, Richard O'Neill, who became the Macwilliam after Richard established Burrishoole, retired here. And he said that Gráine na Mayo, women of Gráine na whatever, came with her husband, Richard de Burgo, Richard O'Leary, but that she was more than Mr. Mate to him. She was the leading.
She wore the pants.
Leading member of the marriage, obviously.
There's also meant to be an ironworks.
Sorry?
An ironworks attached to the abbey.
Oh, no,
the
Richard, the name Richard in Ireland was given to Richard supposedly to do with the iron mines in Cornwall, which he owned as part of the Burrishoole estate. And it may also have been armour.
There's one in Furnace as well, which is
Furnace,
closer.
yeah, that's
What, iron mines?
Yeah.
Iron mines?
Coppers.
Sorry,
There are iron mines in Carron, you said?
Yes.
the iron mines are in
Copper.
Cornwall, yeah.
Copper mines in
There's still, you can still see the Richard O'Donnell, who owned the Burrishoole estate in the late 19th century. He claimed, in fact, he had a dispute with the Marquis of Sligo about ownership of the iron mines. There was a court case involved here.
So did Mulby affect the dissolution of this place? Was he responsible? Because 1580 is very
Well, it was
late.
Mulby and the dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII
Yes.
and Elizabeth.
But it's very late. You said 1580.
Yes.
It's very.
yeah.
It wasn't really touched by
But much wasn't. No,
Henry
actually,
from the
that's right. Yeah, you're right, Edward.
It was too
Burrishoole seemed to
Too
escape.
unimportant.
It was, yeah, it
No money in
was
it.
so far west.
Exactly.
You know, it was out of the orbit of the Normans.
Who lives over there?
That's probably why.
Who lives over there? That-
Dennis Tinsley.
Is it?
That's Burrishoole Lodge, which
Okay.
was formerly Burrishoole
O'Malley's,
House.
Ernie
And the
O'Malley.
O'Malleys were there until 1804, and they got involved in the 1798 rebellion, and they lost their lands there. So then it became a different English.
Didn't Ernie O'Malley live there? Did Ernie O'Malley live there?
Ernie lived there, yes, in the 20th century with his wife. Sitting again, the sculptor.
He lived in
Helen
that
Hooker,
house.
yes.
Could I ask, I can see that this is a sea estuary and there's a high tide mark here. 500 years ago, was it high?
Most people they have those ships.
It's a very deep channel. It's a very deep channel, and it is navigable all the
Would they
time.
have dredged it? Because clearly they would bring in supplies and it would be very, very useful to them. I was just wondering because I can see that there's even a kind of raised kind of beach area further above those bushes. Do you think it was possibly as high as that?
We don't know where they probably had a mini harbour.
Inside plastered. Have you yourself plastered?
Well, that would probably have been done it shouldn't really, because now it is the Department of the Environment won't allow people to renovate anything unless they're using the correct materials, you know, like limestone or whatever, you know.
Yeah, you think there would be anything similar as there was on Clare Island in the
Or the frescoes
Yeah.
on the Abbey there. Don't think so, no. We have to look at the head actually on the east window there. That's the only, and the Virgo O'Malley chalice. But whether there would be frescoes, I'd imagine that would have been discovered by now, you know, with the erosion, etc.
The ones in Clare Island are hardly hanging on, although they've restored them, of course.
No, it's very fast.
Yes.
No, the Clare Island Abbey is, I think, fairly unique. So we'll have a look at the head. There is another one I thought was inside, but I can't see it. You can see the tracery window on the east of the chancel, and at the apex of the V, you can see a head.
Oh yes.
And it appears to be the person is wearing a very elaborate headdress, which suggests that they belonged to the upper echelons of society. But why they're there and what they represent is totally unknown. So it's a great area of research for anybody who's interested in church architecture, because very little or nothing has been done about them. They're just mentioned. When I saw them first, I thought some of the ones in North Mayo, they looked like Celtic heads, and we know, of course, the Celts were headhunters. I thought it was maybe representative of something that was carried over from paganism into the Catholic Church.
And they stopped putting up Sheila na gigs.
And that's another thing we find totally and utterly pagan, is Sheila na gigs at lots of very famous sites. There's one, of course, in Clonmacnoise in the nuns' church. And there are several in the abbeys or the friaries in North Mayo. I don't think there's one in Burrishoole. Is there one in Burris? No.
Yeah, but you also see them in France.
But it might be a sanitised later version, as it were.
You see similar Sheila na gigs, Teresa, in France, on the route of Saint-Jacques de Compostelle, the Compostela, the small little churches there, the medieval churches. They're quite common, in fact.
How would you distinguish a Sheila na gig from this kind of thing?
Anatomically.
Look at it.
Put on your glasses.
You're never good at an SME Paddy anyway.
Well, you all know what Sheila na gig is, do you? No.
I do, yeah.
Well,
Start with the birds and the bees.
I should probably ask the two doctors.
You wouldn't be doing too good by the sound of it.
Going into biology.
It's basically
You spent too much time in the
woman's
steps.
private parts, exposed private parts. Lewd expressions.
Oh my goodness, I walked into that.
And why they should appear on the walls of friaries and church buildings is...
It's warding off the evil eye. It's another.
But they had to have their kings as well.
That has been suggested, right? Or actually, the guide in Boyle Abbey had an intriguing suggestion, which I did not agree with. He said that there may have been a warning to the monks about the temptations outside the walls of the monastery, but I thought, well, the opposite.
Satisfied,
whatever.
What does the word Sheila na gig mean?
No.
What does na gig?
Sheila.
Sheila's the girl anyway. Sheila's there.
What's the name?
Sheila was a fine looking woman.
It's an Australian
Troublemaker,
expression,
probably.
Sheila.
Bridget Bardot.
In the 6th century, there's a 6th century ruin in where I come from in Ballyburna. St. Couplets Church in Ballyburna. They have both the Sheila na gig and they also have a head.
A head.
Okay.
But we were also told it was a guy who tried to rob the contents of the convent and the cattle and so on, and it just stuck his head up there
To warn off.
to warn off other people who might
other
try the same.
would-bes,
I don't know.
Where would they have quarried the stone to build the?
It's limestone.
It's limestone.
And this is a limestone area.
Yeah.
The drumlins.
It'd be somewhere local. I expect.
Yeah, that'd be a great site over there, the Butler Castle.
Yeah.
So the village may have been, or the town may have been, those fields over there.
So, Teresa, what's known about the nunnery then?
Very little. It's been subject of controversy, really, association
Is
with
there a cemetery there?
Burrishoole,
I've never been over there.
It was the nightclub.
Blessed Honoria de Burgo and her fellow sister, Honoria Magen, isn't that right? They were both murdered, weren't they, by the Cromwellian soldiers?
Well, it says they were
They were both over 100, and they were put into a boat and sort of after being beaten up, and they both died of exposure. But there's a plaque or a painting in a monastery in Sicily, which was discovered around 1910 with their images on it and their names. So they were obviously revered in the church, and some Irish monk obviously brought the story of their martyrdom out with them,